Come with us, now travels from state to state, if you dare.
Be the last time anybody sees us alive. I don't know where she has us, but we're gonna get fucking killed.
Hello?
Gina, there is a beehive over there. Do you see that in the hole?
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness.
Good evening, Gina.
Hi. How are you?
Good, good. Want to welcome everybody to 50 States of Madness.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness. Yeah. Again, another episode. Here we are.
Yes.
Drinking some holy water.
Look at that. You're so good. I don't even think I drank a drop of water today. And it's already like in the evening.
That's not good.
So people would know.
That's not good. Drink water.
I know. I've just been drinking
Good old
Starbucks green tea.
Well,
Yeah. But that's actually good for me because normally I just drink coffee.
you can drink, I always say you can drink whatever you want, but you need to drink a cup of water in between everything.
I should.
If you want to drink soda, if you want to drink coffee, if you want to drink, I don't know, vodka for all I care, but gotta drink water.
Yeah. For the people out there who don't know yet, that even though I work for school and I work in a district, I also work at Starbucks.
Yes, she does.
So I do it part-time.
And I get the perks.
Yes. For fun. I do it for fun. My kids were out of the house. I was an empty nester and I decided, you know what? I'm going to work part-time. Plus I want to be debt-free in 4 years. I have a goal. But I thought, I'll work at Starbucks. That looks like a fun job. And actually it is a really fun job. Jobs are always fun when you don't have to do it. If you're just doing them for fun. If it's not fun and you can quit, right? If it's not something you have to do. So I really, really like it. Yeah, so I get my caffeine fix.
I feel like
you get your pinkity drinkity.
Pinkity drinkity. Yeah, I feel like you should stay working there too.
Yeah, I love it. So so I got to drink more water. Well, anyways, yes. Back to that. I have to drink more water. But,
so I want to, because I failed to do so. Well, I did. I explained this, but on episodes that we couldn't use. What I am sitting in.
Yes, let everybody know exactly what it is.
So this is it. I'm sure it just looks like I'm tucked back into like
a closet.
A closet. However, this is in my house. I live in an old rectory for Catholic Church. It used to be the rectory. And so the room that we're recording in is where they had church. And so this is the confessional.
That is so cool.
Behind me. So I'm sitting here and then Shannon's sitting across from me. But
yes.
Yeah, so this is the little cozy confessional that I'm in.
Making all her confessions.
Making all my confessions.
Yeah. 50 States of Madness.
Yeah.
So, well, what is today's episode about?
So today we're going to talk about the Wyoming Frontier Prison, which started out, we were just going to go take a tour of the prison.
Yeah, this is in Wyoming.
Wyoming.
Rawlins, Wyoming.
Rawlins.
What is it? Rawlins?
Rawlins. There's no G. And I'm only saying that because when we were visiting there, we went into the gift shop to buy these cool little shirts.
So cute.
And
here, wait, hold on. Cool little shirts. I had it just on you. Cool little shirts.
And the guy that was working there was talking to Shannon, and she said something about, oh, we're in Rawlins. And he's looked at her and he's like, no, you're in Rawlins, Wyoming. There's no G.
I just don't pronounce things correctly 90% of the time.
That's okay.
So
that's why we love you.
Thank you.
So anyway, we had planned to visit this prison from the start.
Yeah, we had it on our list.
And so we went and we booked a visit for a tour. And while we were there, we met a group of 3 amazing people who were also doing a podcast. And it just so happened that we were the only 5 people on this tour.
Well, that's because we got there really late.
We did. Because we took like the last tour of the day.
We thought we were going to get there earlier in the day at 12 o'clock. But, there's always a reason for something, right?
Yeah.
So we thought we were going to be there earlier in the day, but the stops that we made along the way, in different ghost towns and different places where we were taking pictures just took longer than we thought. Because every time we got to a place, you think like a ghost town has nothing, so you're only going to be there maybe 30 minutes to look around, and
Not
Gina
the
and I
case.
love to explore. So
I feel
a
like
lot of
that
places-
happened our whole entire trip.
Yes.
We thought like, okay, this adventure is only going to take about an hour, and then 6 hours later, we're like, oh my god, where did the time go?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was.
So that's just
So
the
we
way
had
it is.
planned. Yeah, so we had planned to hit this place up earlier in the day, but it just so happened that we ended up taking the last tour of the day, and so there was just 5 of us, Shannon and I, and then these 3 other people that we met, and we'll get into that story later on. And so we got a really cool opportunity to do something with them that we'll share with you after we go over the history of the Wyoming Frontier Prison.
Rawlins Frontier Prison, well, it was called the Frontier Prison, but it's in Rawlins, Wyoming, was actually designed and created and was a thought like in 1890.
1888, I think.
There
Yeah,
you
I
go.
think it was. I think they just kind of like outlined it, maybe like
Yeah,
in
like
bricks, like where they wanted it to be, and then it just
and there was an architect for it, and so
Yeah.
he designed it and everything. So like Gina said, like they did the outline and everything for it, but the funding wasn't there. So it just kind of was put on the back burner. But it was finally done and up and running in 1901. It was only open for 80 years.
Yeah.
That's actually not a long time to
It's
put all
not.
this money into a building
because
to house people.
if you like look at the building, obviously we have a bunch of pictures and video that we'll share, but the outside of this place is beautiful. It looks like a medieval castle almost. Like
it is.
it's a really beautiful place.
The
Obviously,
stonework.
probably not inside
Yeah.
it wasn't beautiful, but the outside is really beautiful, and it's
Yeah.
in like a nice area. I was like so tripped out by when we were driving, and of course, you know, I've never been there before, and so we were driving through this like residential neighborhood, and
Cute little town.
yeah, and it's like, oh, like you're here, like you've arrived, and I
Almost-
looked up, and it's just at like the end of this block.
It's the end of a block. It's almost like a high school.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
a school site, you know, it's
Where
just at
where
the end of
school
the
would be,
street where
yeah.
a where a school would be. And it's in the, like most prisons are set like, you know, in the desert, no one around, if people
especially
escaped.
especially because they had like maximum security, so
Yeah.
they had like, you know, they had some doozies there.
This prison had a gas chamber,
Yes.
and it also had the
gallows.
gallows where people were hung.
Yeah.
So it was a prison where people were executed.
Correct.
So these are hardcore prisoners
Yeah.
that are housed here. I just am curious to know, which is probably something we should have asked, were the houses that are surrounding it, were they there at the time? Well, those houses obviously were built, you know, before they closed.
Yeah.
But I wonder when they first built the prison, if those houses were.
Yeah,
there.
I don't know. That's interesting. I never thought to ask that.
I didn't either. You know, because we're just sort of like, well, because once you're in the prison, you forget that you're in a neighborhood.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful. Like after we came out, there was all these little deer running, and like in the front of it through the grass, and it was it's just such a beautiful area right there. And yeah, it was not an area where you think a prison would be.
Absolutely not.
At all.
Absolutely not. So a little bit about it is that over the length of time, it housed about 13,500 people, but it also had at one time 11 women
Yeah.
in the prison. But the men and women never saw each other. The men never even knew the women were there. It was a very short time. What, 3 years?
No, I think
There we
it
go.
was I want to say it was closer to, I want to say in 1909 is when the last female was moved to,
So 5 years.
transferred to Colorado, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got 5 years of housing
and
women.
they were all upstairs. So they were
never crossed paths.
no, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah,
Like
never
they
crossed
never even
paths.
knew they were there.
Yeah. So when it was first open, it had 104 cell blocks. It was cell block A, which had no electricity or running water, and very inadequate heating.
Yeah.
So it was not a comfortable place to stay
No,
as a prisoner.
not at all.
Yeah. And then they started making additions because it was filling up fast.
Yeah.
This prison. So, like you said, in 1909, the women were moved out and they created Cell Block B. So, and this was in 1950. That Cell Block B was up and running.
And that's a long time to go
Yeah.
with just, you're housing all these prisoners and they have cold water. Like, how do you take a shower?
No heating. No, yeah.
And Wyoming
warm water.
winters get cold. Can you imagine having to take I don't even want to take an ice cold shower here. Like, we had our water heater go out last year and I was like, I cannot take, and we're here in California. I cannot take a cold shower. Like, I can't imagine it being the dead of winter out there and
Not having the
not
heat.
having any hot water.
And then vice versa in the summer.
Yeah.
Like, it gets hot in Wyoming in the summer.
Yeah.
And so just not having that AC or anything out there either.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, and
I
I'm
can
sure they
imagine.
weren't probably trying to make these people comfortable either. So,
Yes. So then in 1950, it temporarily relieved the overcrowding, but they also added solitary confinement cells. So, and one of the stories that they told us, and correct me if I'm wrong, which a lot of times I am, that with the solitary confinement, they would throw them in there with a bucket and naked, basically. And they would feed them 3 times a day, and they would probably only clean out the bucket if they were kind 7 times a week, maybe.
yeah, it was, I think, if I remember correctly, I believe that all of them on Cell Block A had, I think they called them honey pots.
The honey pots.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's where they went to the restroom because there was no toilets in their cells. And it was 2 men to a cell, and they were very, very small cells. Like,
Yes.
they were very, very small. And yeah, they would have a bucket, and if you were in solitary confinement, I believe you ate twice a day, bread and water only.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was reading a story too that one prisoner, because you would count your days by how many times you got fed.
Right.
And so they ended up feeding this one prisoner multiple times a day, like 3, 4, up to 7 times a day, so that, let's say he was supposed to be there 60 days. So he's counting his days down based on the number of times he's being fed. And so they messed up his counting
Right.
by feeding him more times in a day. And he ended up going crazy
Yeah.
because at the end of the time when he thought he was going to be let out, he's waiting for them to let them out, and they were never coming to let him out. They were still just feeding him.
He was probably only halfway done at that point.
Yeah. So you can really mess with somebody's brain being in there because
Yeah, it's
And their
especially
psyche.
like, we were able to go into the cells. We were able to go into the solitary confinement, and that is like the door on that thing alone is just, it's huge. Like, it's heavy. Just this.
and it's black, it's dark.
It is. It's dark, especially on that side of the prison.
Yeah.
Cell Block A it's very dark.
If they had, because when they, even during the day, just the sunlight when it hit it, it just, you couldn't really see anything. Like, we took the tour at 4:30
Yeah.
in the afternoon, and you still could not see anything on that side of the cell block. So it was just super dark and creepy. And we'll have pictures up for anyone who wants to see on YouTube. But, you're able to see how dark it is on that side compared to the other
The
side.
other side, yeah.
Yeah. So they ended up creating another cell block C, where it was maximum security. And that was created by 1966, and it was 36 cells, and it was only reserved for serious discipline cases. Oh, and then another fun fact about solitary confinement was because why would prisoners want to go into solitary confinement? They had it where they were able to go inside there to be quiet,
Yeah.
and people actually committed offenses to get placed in there because they were bigger cells.
Well, they were bigger
Compared to the cells they had to stay with.
They didn't have to share a cell, and
Yeah. They had only a honey pot just for them.
And they had hot water.
Yes, that was what it was.
Yeah.
On that side of the
Yeah.
cell block, they had hot water as opposed to the other cell block.
Yeah, so you had people committing crimes
Yeah, they
just be thrown into solitary confinement
get away.
to have a hot shower.
Yeah.
Like,
That's funny. Okay, I just remembered that. Sorry.
Yeah.
And so in 1981, the prison did end up closing. But before they closed, there were executions there. So when we went on the tour, we had a cute little tour guide.
yeah, she was very sweet.
I forget her name. I wish I would remember.
Harley.
Harley. That's right.
Yeah, her name was
Super
Harley.
cute.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, she got upset with us just a little bit because we were stopping to take pictures so many times.
Yeah.
And it was her end of her day. And she's like,
Yeah,
this tour, you guys are at the end of the day. We got to get the tour done. And we kept stopping, taking photos, of us in jail cells and like, check us out over here.
There was so much to take pictures. Like, I was trying to just take it all in, but there was so much.
She wanted to get the tour going.
Yeah.
And so, but she went through, when you first start the tour, she explains the hanging process.
Yeah.
How they didn't want to make anybody responsible for actually hanging a person or killing a person. So it would be done with some type of device where water would pour. A
bucket of water, yeah.
Yeah, and it would like through a pipe and it would pour in this bucket and then the bucket would tilt and then it would, remove this lever and then blah, blah, blah. And then the person would get hung. The only flaw in that is that one, there wasn't a ton of room from the second floor to the first floor.
Nope.
So not a lot of people broke their neck right away coming down. So a lot of them would strangle to death.
Yeah.
It wasn't a hard or far enough fall.
No.
For them when they went through the drop trap door.
Yeah.
And we actually stood on that trap door.
We did.
It's great. It's crazy to know. Everybody should take this tour.
Yeah.
Like, I just think it was such a great tour and so educational, but to actually go where
these people were
in
the last moments of their life.
and you actually got the view of what they saw right before they fell, because they'd have you stand there and look out this one little tiny little window that actually didn't see anything but maybe the sky and the fence.
There was not much to see.
It wasn't
outside.
a view. But so she kind of went through the explanation of the gallows, and so we got to see it. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not cool that people got executed and people died, but it's just to actually witness it and see it. I think everybody should have
Just
that
the
education.
history, the history of all of that and where we are now, opposed to back then. And not that much time has passed.
No. I mean,
so
it
much
shut
has
down in
changed.
1981.
Yeah. I mean, to us, that's not a long time ago, but I mean.
I was 10 years old at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
It was still open when I was alive, when I was born. So, yeah. And then they moved on to the gas chamber.
Right.
And we got to see that too.
We did.
They walked us through everything. In this. But just to kind of take it back to how dark the cells were on that one side. And was it cell block C? Is it cell? I
think it's not cell block C. I believe it's B.
Is cell block B? Okay. So in cell block B, they actually thought, we're going to paint the walls black so that it's dark, that the prisoners, for the prisoners. But it almost was a disservice to the poor men who guarded these cells.
Yeah.
Because what would happen is, and they actually had Gina demonstrate, and we have a picture of the cell, where you walk into the cell, and as she's backing up, there comes a point where you don't even see you. Mm-mm. You completely disappear. And I'm telling you, it's the middle of the day.
I didn't get to see it because I was the person that was in that.
She was
chosen to put in the cell, but the picture that we have, I believe I'm standing in the cell.
I can't find you in there.
You can't see me in the picture,
but I'm pretty sure you're there because I was like, Gina, I think I took a picture while you were there.
Yeah,
I thought I had a video too, but maybe not. But said, Gina, this is the picture of the cell. I can't see her in there.
And I could just see them, like nothing on my end changed. I was staring at all these people and they said they couldn't see anything. Like I just disappeared.
So they can surprise the guards. And also they were telling us a story. Let's take it back to the honeypots. Is they were telling us a story about how the guards would have to walk on this like very narrow type window. Like I can't even I don't know how to explain it, but like
It was a very narrow area that they had to like walk in, because they would, if they walked too close to the cells, they'd get grabbed or punched or spit on. But then if they walked too far away, they were getting, poop thrown on them.
Honeypot
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
get emptied onto them. Or they'd throw the feces at them.
Yeah, they would just throw it at them.
Yeah. So it wasn't uncommon for these guards to get feces thrown on them.
Yeah.
So, but
Pretty shitty job.
yeah. Wait, where's my? Yay. I even got the laugh. Stop it, Gina. Stop it. So, we're learning new buttons and toys.
Yeah.
Oh my, new buttons and toys. Oh my. So, sorry. So as we were there, we were able to see you disappear and come back out. And this is in the middle of the day. So that was really interesting. And then she took us to the kitchen.
Yeah.
And then to where they ate. And they had these beautiful paintings.
Yeah, they were all over the walls.
All around the cafeteria.
The whole cafeteria, yeah.
And it was an artist who was a prisoner there.
Right.
Who created these paintings. And one of them was really cool because it was one of those ones where you walk by it and it always looked like it's looking at you.
Like it's looking at you. Yeah. They said that he had was it like hidden messages or like hidden things in all the photos that were hanging up or that were painted. And so as we took the tour, they were showing us these different paintings and asking us like if we could see where the hidden message was.
Yeah. So it was really fun.
It was interesting, yeah.
And then we got to go out into the yard. And another really cool story was that they used to make license plates there.
Right.
And that's common. We hear that all the time. But they shut it down right away.
Right away.
Because something about labor laws or something, or having them work, right, without pay or something. So they ended up shutting that down. And then they tried different businesses there in one of the buildings.
Yeah, they made blankets for the Navy. Well, the war was going on at some point, and then after the war, that was shut down. And then they made T-shirts of some sort. I think that was it, and then everything was shut down after that, except for the one man who tried to escape.
Yeah, I think he worked. He was a very trusted prisoner, right? Mm-hmm. And he tried to. One day he didn't show up for the night count or for dinner or whatever, and they were like, "Oh, no big deal. He's he's fine. He's just working late," because he kind of would work in the back and finish up, and with I believe it was the laundry.
Right. I
want to say it was like the laundry. And so he didn't show up for the night count, but they didn't even think twice about it because it's like, he's working late, not a big deal. He was very trusted. And it turns out that he ended up putting himself inside one of the laundry baskets. You think this was a movie, but in one of the laundry baskets, and the truck took him out. Yeah.
And they didn't notice till the next day that he's gone.
Yeah, when the morning count or something, the next day when he's gone. I just don't remember what happened to him.
I don't either. I don't remember the ending to that story.
Neither do I.
But I do remember when we were outside that they were telling us that the people in cell block C, which was like the maximum security part, that they had like their yard area where they were allowed to go 1 hour a day, and I believe it was, I want to say it was 36 inmates were in cell block C, And so they would allow them 1 hour a day to go out, but none of them, it was like by their self basically. So even if it was during the night, you know, it wasn't like at 2:00 in the afternoon. If they just wanted to be, you know, dicks, they'd be like, okay, 4 a.m., this is your yard time. You get an hour in the yard. And their yard was like, I don't remember the exact dimensions, but it was really long and thin, like
Very narrow.
skinny, narrow area.
Probably only about like 10 feet wide, but it was like really
Maybe
long.
30 or 40 feet long.
Yeah. It was,
And so that was their area, and it was just literally just concrete, like nothing else. And so at one point, one of the inmates had said, you know, like, hey, do you think you could get us a basketball court out here, like, so we can do something?
yes.
And so they said, sure, we'll get you a basketball court. And so they got them a basketball court. And mind you, these men had lines that they could not cross. They were painted on the ground, but like they couldn't cross them. If they crossed these lines, they got shot at.
Yeah. There was like a warning shot line, and then you're getting shot line.
Yeah.
With the
so they had
guards.
the guard up there in the guard tower. And so they were being watched 24/7. And so they said, yeah, sure. You guys want a basketball court? We'll get you a basketball court. So they got them a basketball net, a hoop, and they put it up, and they put it facing the other way. Backwards. So it's backwards. And then they put it a couple feet across the line. So if they wanted to come on the other side to shoot a basket, they'd get shot. They'd get shot at. Crazy. So, yeah, I thought that was a funny story. Like,
yeah.
who would even have the nerve? Like, you're in a maximum security prison and you're like, yo, can we get a basketball hoop?
Yeah. Can we do something here? You know, right.
Like, at this point, you're lucky your ass is outside and I want a basketball hoop. Like,
now you want this.
Anything else? Anything else you want?
That's hilarious. I wanted to make a little bit of a correction, and this is why sometimes I have to have my notes or something in front of me, was that it was when it first started, that one room that they were making stuff, it first started as a broom factory. From 1901 through 1970, it had a broom factory, but the inmates burned it down during a riot.
Oh, okay. I knew they made brooms.
Yes.
But I didn't remember that they had burned it down.
They had burned it down. And then the factory was rebuilt and operated as a shirt factory, which brought in twice the revenue to the state. Then in 1934, a federal law was passed to prohibit the sale and transportation of prison manufactured goods from one state to another, which resulted in the loss of significant revenue when the factory was closed. In 1935, the factory began operating as a woolen mill, which won the Navy E in 1942 for the superior quality blankets produced by the prison for the military during World War II.
Right.
So that was the blankets for World War II. And then in 1949, the prison changed production one last time, producing license plates until the penitentiary closed in 1981.
Oh.
So it wasn't that, so they were allowed to do
that. Then. Okay.
Yeah, so that license plate lasted a long time. Yeah. So it served the community in Wyoming for 80 years, this prison.
It did,
So outside of the basketball court, because I'm going to circle back around again, and right outside it, remind me, but is that, it was kind of near the stairs, or actually it was actually behind the stairs where you would go up to the gas chamber? Because the ones who were actually ready to be executed were in a completely separate area.
Completely separate area.
It wasn't even in the maximum security part of the prison.
No.
It was actually, we had to walk outside,
Yeah.
walk past the mill or wherever, the broom factory, all that. And mind you, it actually was just foundation at this point.
It's just concrete slabs at this point. There's nothing there anymore.
So when we walked around, we were able to go up these stairs to the part where the gas chamber, the gallows, and the prisoners were held.
Right.
So the prisoners that were held for execution are actually, a couple of the cells actually faced the doors.
Right there.
It's like a bedroom in your house, and like literally you walk out your bedroom, and if you can see like, you know, your kid's room or your whoever you live with, your parents' room, like
It's right there.
yeah, it's like cross the living room and go into the kitchen type room. Like
And
it's
that's
not
right where the gallows were and the gas chamber.
yes. So while we were on this tour, and Harley was talking and everything, and all of us were chit chatting. We were taking our jumping across Wyoming photos.
We were.
Inside the prison.
We were.
And so as we were taking them,
I think that's where she started to get irritated with us.
just a little bit. And we can be a little annoying sometimes. So while we were there, I overheard the 3 other people that we were on the tour with talking with her about how they were coming back that evening. And she was like, "Oh, you're the people that are you're the people who reserved the prison for the evening." And they're like, "Yeah, we are." And they were like, they were saying like, "Yeah, they're coming back because they're going to do an investigation." So of course my ears went, "What?"
And I paid attention to nothing. So of course I heard none of this conversation.
I was like, "What is going on? Wait a second." So I turned around and I'm like, "I'm sorry. I overheard that you're coming back for an investigation. What do you do?" And they proceeded to tell me they were podcasters from Paranormal Peeps, and they had reserved the prison. I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's so interesting. We'd like to pick your brain after the tour because we're starting a podcast." At this point, you know, we're barely learning the terminology. We're barely getting the equipment. All we had was an idea.
We thought we knew a lot at this point. We didn't know anything. We had no idea what the next month or two had in store for us.
So we were like, we wanted to pick their brain, kind of like, how do we do stuff? You know, we just knew a few things about it, but we just had an idea and time to go to Wyoming. So they were like, "Yeah, no problem." So as we were walking, every once in a while we chit chat with them or kind of pick their brain a little bit or talk to them about something. But for the most part, we kind of give them their space. They're taking in the tour. They're trying to learn everything they need to learn too and get all the information they needed. But afterwards, sweetest people in the world. After the tour, we were still talking. And so we kind of went outside the prison because, like we said, we were the last tour. And basically they were kicking us out, saying, get out.
Was like, you need to leave.
Paranormal Peeps, you're coming back at 7. That's in an hour from now.
Yeah.
The rest of you need to leave. So as we were leaving, we were kind of talking to them on the front steps of the prison and just kind of, asking them about, technical things, like how do you upload? How do you do this? How do you do that? I'm telling you, we had no clue. Are we doing it right? What's going to happen? How does Apple even know I have a podcast? Yeah. Basic questions. And like I said in previous, the podcast community is so great and so wonderful. And everybody we reached out to is so helpful, and them included.
Yes.
They did not know us from anyone. Like we just
had no
met.
idea who we were.
Yeah. But by the end of our conversation, 45 minutes later, they asked us to join them.
Yeah.
On their investigation. Paranormal investigation. Are you kidding me? Like,
I know. We looked at each other like we wanted to just do backflips. Like,
we could not have planned this trip any better. Like
everything
just
fell into place
on our lap. Like
literally for the rest of the night.
Yes. Like I get chills thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who or what was watching over us, but
it was the way that things happened were like the chain of events that happened after this. So
first of all, we weren't even supposed to be in Rawlins that day.
Like, we were not.
No, we had a whole other plan up through Cody, Buffalo.
Everything was different.
We ended up changing stuff last minute.
Yeah.
At the last minute. Go ahead with this one.
So we were supposed to, like we said earlier, we're supposed to be doing our tour earlier in the day. After we did our tour, we had a 3-hour drive to, where were we going that night?
We were heading towards Laramie.
Laramie. Okay, so we were supposed to end up in Laramie, which was about a 3-hour drive from Rawlins.
Yeah,
right?
Maybe, no, I think another hour and a half. I think it was 3 hours from Rock Springs, but it was an hour and a half from Rawlins.
So we had a little bit of a drive
ahead of us.
And before we left LA, we booked all of our hotels were already booked. So we thought. And so This was a real buckle up buttercup moment. So they ask us as we're standing out there, and it's like nearing 6 o'clock. And so we're just chit chatting, and they said, hey, are you guys busy tonight? And we were like, oh, well, yeah, like we got a drive ahead of us, maybe an hour or two. We're going to Laramie. We have an early morning. And they were like, oh, well, we would love for you guys to stay with us and investigate with us tonight if you're interested. And so we looked at each other and we're like, yeah.
Like we said, we're not a paranormal podcast.
I think we held it
investigators.
together. We held it together though, because I think inside we were jumping up and down, but we played it cool. We were like, oh, sure. I think we can figure that out.
When we got to the car,
we were like, freaking out. We were screaming like, who do we call? Who do we call? Johnny, guys, we got to call. Yeah, we were calling everybody. And so we got to the car, and mind you, it's about 6 o'clock at this point. We haven't eaten all day.
No.
And
we had to be back there by 7.
And we had 1 hour. So we're like, okay, we need to get on the phone. We need to call Laramie. We need to cancel our hotel reservation.
Oh, no, we weren't going to cancel. We were just going to let them know we were going to be there at 1.
Oh, we would be later.
We would be there around 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
We were still going to make the drive.
We were still going to go out there,
and we were going to try to get food.
Yes.
And so Shannon calls our hotel, and the lady's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, you don't have a reservation for tonight." And she's like, "What are you talking about? What do you mean?" She's like, "No, it's for tomorrow. It's for the 31st."
I did the wrong day.
So she did the wrong day.
We would have driven out there to
and had nowhere to stay.
And had no hotel.
Nowhere to stay. So we literally got something to eat at like a 7-Eleven or something, like a liquor store.
A liquor store, because we couldn't find any place to eat.
We booked a hotel there. Like
shady hotel.
Yeah.
Oh, but we're gonna give them a shout out. No, just kidding.
Right.
It was like America's Best or something. I don't even know. Like
I don't even remember.
And it was not America's Best.
Was that the hotel that we were handing the stuff out the window?
Yes, it was.
Okay, we have a video of this. Yeah. It was quite a sight. We instead of walking out the front door to load the stuff back in the car, we didn't even have a screen on our windows. So we opened the window, we backed the car up to the window there. And we just
the car was parked there already. It was perfect.
Threw our stuff out the window.
The car is there. Let's just put the stuff out the window. Why are we going to walk it all the way around the whole hotel?
It was a moment for sure.
Yeah.
So anyway, we did all that. We were back at 7 o'clock, and we started the investigation. And so they told us, this is Jamie, Joshua, and Elisa from Paranormal Peeps. So wonderful people. So they said to us, hey, have you guys ever done a paranormal investigation before? And I said, yeah, I have. I've done one here in California a couple years ago. And Shannon was like, no, I've never done this before.
I've never.
So they just basically said to us, I'm like, well, how involved, like, what do we do? And so we just kind of followed their lead, and we just kind of watched what they did. So when it started, we were in cell block A is where we started, right?
Yes.
And is that where you went into? We kind of separated at that point. No, we were in the first cell with Elisa.
Yeah, we went into the first cell.
So
with Elisa.
Shannon and I and Elisa went into a cell in cell block A, and we were there for, I don't know, probably about an hour. Yeah. And most of the time it's very quiet.
You just have to stay really, really quiet.
Yeah. And they're just talking, asking questions.
Because they have a microphone that picks up sound.
Yeah.
That sometimes you can't hear with the naked ear.
Yeah.
Like you have to have headphones on and stuff to try to listen. And even then you can't until you play it back and you turn it way up. So we couldn't hear really anything. Every once in a while we'd have a question like, oh, maybe we heard that. I know at one point I thought I heard footsteps.
And you did. And so
it turns out
she did. Yeah. Nobody else heard it. But when they replayed their recordings, it's very clear.
And you can go listen to Paranormal Peeps.
Yeah.
And it's the Rawlins, Wyoming Frontier Prison. I was going to say hotel. Yeah. Frontier Prison episode,
Yeah.
and you will hear the footsteps
Yeah, they
that
have
I
their,
heard.
yeah, they have their EVPs. They have everything out there, and they caught some super cool stuff.
Yeah, and we went in as skeptics. Like, we were
yeah.
very skeptic, and so we still are. Like, we're very, you want to wish things away, you want to explain things away. But I liked how they investigated, because every sound they heard or everything they heard, they tried to find a reason for it.
Yeah,
like they would always
because numerous
look.
times we were like, "Oh, did you hear that? Oh, did you hear that?" And there were, a couple times where we were like, "Oh no, that was this." But you got to realize too, like, there's nobody else in this prison. We were by ourselves. There was nobody there.
They basically have you locked in there.
Yeah.
You do have an escort, someone from the prison.
The prison, yeah.
Is
He was just
escorting us
sitting
around.
there up against the wall, following us the whole night. Like
He was just
wasn't-
quiet.
Yeah, he wasn't doing anything. He
No
just sat there.
participation.
No. And
A lot of times it was our stomach, because we ate before we went, and it was all five of us. But every once in a while, it'd be like, "Oh,
your
my stomach."
girls, and you don't realize that when it is so quiet, like dead quiet, how you hear everything, like everything gets picked up, every little noise gets picked up. So they have this thing where you if your stomach makes a noise, or if you move your foot, skids on the floor, any noise, they'll have you say, like, "That was me."
That's me. Yeah.
So they know that they can, when they're just listening back to the recordings, they automatically know, okay, that wasn't anything that we heard.
Yes.
So we did that. And then we
tell it about the
dowsing rods.
dowsing rods.
Yeah, when we were in there,
all came up with the same
name. Yeah.
Well, explain that.
So they were asking if there was anybody in that cell, and they said Alisa was using the dowsing rods, and they said yes, that there was a gentleman there, and she asked him, "What does your name start with?" And so she started saying the letters of the alphabet, and it crossed at the letter O. And so it's funny because we all were thinking of the same name
at the same time.
same time. And mind you,
there's not a lot of O
There's
names.
not. However, typically I would have said Omar.
Yeah. Owen.
Only because
Omar.
I have a student by that name, and I say that name like 1,000 times a day. So typically that would have been
The first name.
that came to my mind. However, I said Oscar.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was the name I was about ready to say too.
And Alisa said the same thing. So later on, after doing some digging, she found that there was a prisoner in there by the name of Oscar.
Yes.
So, but this was after, obviously, they went back home and did their research.
Yes.
Because they are not from Wyoming. They are from Utah.
Yeah.
So, so we did that, and then we went to, where did we go after that? Where we separated? Were we still in cell block A?
No, you had, you went with Jamie
and Josh.
Is that the time, did you go over
Yes.
to the showers? No, they
No.
were in the showers at the time that we were in the cell. And then they came back, and then we all decided to go on the side of the prison that has the solitary confinement.
Yes.
And Alicia wanted, and I'm sorry, Alisa.
Alisa.
I messed up your name. She wanted to go into the solitary confinement on her own to be able to see if she can pick something up.
Yeah.
Because to be honest with you, we weren't being very successful. Even though we had a couple of moments, it wasn't like a huge, yes, there's spirits.
It was pretty quiet
here.
for the most
It was
part.
very quiet, yeah. So she wanted to see if she can reach anybody in there.
Yeah. So she wanted to be in there by herself.
Yes.
So she was in there by herself. She shut the door.
I sat on the outside of the door
Yeah.
and leaned up against it, because just in case she needed anything or needed anyone, I would be right there while you went.
I went around to another cell with Jamie and Josh, and we didn't get a whole lot in there in that cell, but we were in there for a little while. And pardon me if I don't I'm not really well versed in the little gadgets that they use. I don't know any of the names of them. So they were using a device at some point that I don't know what it's called or what it does. But so after that, we went to the infirmary.
Yeah. No. Well, before that, I just want to tell my little story about how when she was in solitary confinement.
Oh, yes.
So when she was in solitary confinement, and this is where I really liked investigating with them. I didn't think it was like going to be hokey or anything like all these, oh my goodness, I got scratched by a spirit, run everybody, which I would have loved. And like, count me in if you need an actress. But no, I really wanted to know how this paranormal investigation worked, right? And people who truly, truly believe this and are into it and really like have had these connections.
Right.
And so when I was sitting out there, I kept hearing a noise down the hall, and you guys had already left by that point.
Right.
And I kept hearing it. And then, but anytime I would hear it, like about 5 seconds later, I hear the same thing in the cell behind me that I was sitting against the door at the solitary confinement. And then it would happen again. But then I'd hear a noise behind me. And I'm like, okay, so it's not coming from behind me with the echo. It's happening over there first.
Right.
So it was just really bizarre. And I was the only one sitting out there kind of freaking out. And I'd look at the guy, because the guy who was escorting us, he was sitting across from me at a bench, but I didn't want to talk because I didn't want to interrupt her investigation, because I hear her doing stuff over there and talking and asking questions. And so I didn't want to disturb her. So I'm like, you know what, I'll just ask afterwards. So when she ended up coming out, I kind of, told her what was happening. So instead of just saying, oh yeah, you heard something, which, some people probably would, like, oh yeah, that was a spirit. They were like, no, let's figure this out. So she went back in there, shut the door, and it turns out that there was some kind of pipe that runs through.
Yeah.
And she was actually saying it before I'd hear it. She was just repeating it.
Right.
So I thought I was hearing it from down there first, but it was actually, I was
Behind
listening
you.
to her. It was actually behind me, but I was hearing her voice travel because there was a pipe that went through
that
the
whole
cells.
building just echoes.
It does. So that's when I was like, you know what? These people are legit. Like, they're not going to sit there and let us believe every little noise we hear is something supernatural. So I really, really love that part. But okay.
Yeah.
So
They were good.
yeah.
So then we went to... That's when we went to the infirmary. Right?
Yeah, afterwards we took all our equipment, went to the infirmary.
Now the
which
infirmary-
you can't do during the daytime tour. They do not
Right.
take you there.
Right.
So it was really cool. But
Yeah. So that was cool because we didn't get to visit that part. That part is
In the
closed
day.
off for the tour. Yeah.
Yes.
So this was something new to us. We didn't know. So we went into the infirmary, and it was smaller than I had imagined.
it's very tiny.
You walk in, and there is 2 beds. There was 2 beds there.
Don't actually know what the glass part was. It was either waiting room or like discharge or someplace for these guys to get some light. And we came in over there. Okay.
And then there's like a cutout of a window and this little tiny room that sits inside. And it's only big enough for a bed. And there was 1 bed in there, and that was their surgery area. Their surgical
So tiny. You got to see the pictures up on YouTube.
Yeah, there's just a bed in there and maybe 6 inches on each side, at the foot of the bed and on the sides. And the head of the bed is up against this window. And so, and then there's like another little room off to the side where they had a dental chair where they did dental work.
I need to go back and grab some out of my bag. In the office.
Is there anything in there?
Yeah, there's a chair.
Hey, this is where I belong. That's a good place. It was a dental assistant.
Okay. Is that a big room in there?
It's not huge, no.
Okay. Then I'll just leave the camera out there pointing in.
What is in it? Oh, does it say
Like, there's
art?
like old crutches.
Oh my gosh, something just touched me right here.
There's a bug. It's fine.
There was a bug, thank you.
It's fine. I mean, because I have my
Might be
windows.
cobwebs
so-
and stuff too.
I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad, like, I was an assistant during the time where it was like, didn't have all of this. This would be terrifying.
This is intimidating. These tools. Yeah, there's a bug fly down here.
Okay, thank you.
I just saw it. Looks like a moth, yeah. It's like light.
So we walked in and they hadn't chosen a room yet that they wanted to investigate. And so for some reason I was drawn to that surgical area. I don't know why. Like as soon as I walked in there, and there's no electricity in here either, by the way.
No, it's completely dark. So we
So-
had to have lights set up and everything
Yeah,
for
it
this.
was completely pitch black in there. And so I don't know why, but I just was so fascinated by that room for some reason.
I don't know why either, because I actually did not want to have anything to do with that room. I stood on the outside of it because, like you said, they had the windows cut out, so I can stand on the outside and still talk to you because
Yeah, there was no glass in there.
there's no glass. So
Yeah, it was just the windowsill, but there was no glass. So when they were trying to decide, what area they were going to investigate, I said, "Hey, can we go in this room?" Like, I don't know why, but I'm just like being drawn to this room for some reason. So we did. So we walked into the room and we got in there, and Elisa stayed on the outside of the window
with me,
with
yes.
you. And then myself, Josh, and Jamie. Josh and I were on this side of the bed, and then Jamie was on the other side of the bed. And so Elisa was kind of talking and, if there's anybody in here, whatever. And so I guess it's known that in that area that people have had history of having their hair pulled or.
I think it was because there were some that they liked somebody like something about touching hair. Like to grab the hair or touch the hair.
Yeah.
So she had asked it,
like, if somebody is here, can you give me a sign?
you can go ahead and pull my
Pull
hair.
my hair.
You can touch my hair. You can pull it.
And
She
so-
gave it permission to.
Right. I guess they thought that everybody in the room gave them permission because I'm the lucky one that got my hair pulled. It was, it was something that I've never experienced before, I have to say. Again, I'm a skeptic and I like to, explain everything away. And I guess thinking back, I've had little instances here and there where I've seen something or heard something. However, I've never had an experience like this before, and it scared the shit out of me.
I've never seen you scared, to be honest with you. As much as I've hung out with you, we've gone to Halloween haunt hay rides. And I can see that's kind of creepy or whatever, but I've never seen you jump back and honestly have a look of fear on your face.
Yeah, it was.
You were
very
something
scared.
just touched me. You were just something
touched
just
And
me. Something
it
just
wasn't
pulled my
the
hair.
wind blowing. I mean, there was no wind.
There was no
going on
wind.
anyway. But this was just something different. If somebody was running their fingers through your hair and it got caught in your hair is what it felt like. And so, so then after that happened, they kind of had to talk me down a little bit
Because you wanted to leave
I wanted
the
to
room.
leave. I was ready to go. I wanted to go. And so I ended up staying for a little bit, but then I got very sad. I started to feel very sad. And at one point I started to cry, and I wasn't sure why I was crying. I just felt very, very sad. Being next to that bed, I don't know. It was very odd. It was an odd feeling. And so, so then I ended up, we stayed for a little bit, and they were asking for,
Names or how many spirits are there?
and they got
30
something.
if not more. I don't even remember
Yeah.
exactly.
But then they were asking, can you knock? If there's somebody here, can you knock?
Yes.
And,
There was a knock.
there were multiple knocks.
Yeah,
This
every
happened-
time they asked it, there would be a knock.
And to the point where it was so spot on that Josh actually went out of the building and walked around the outside to see, is there a branch hitting this building? Where's this noise coming from?
He wanted
he
to
was
make
out
sure.
there for a long time. What is going on? And then came back in, and then did it again. And so then at one point, Elisa did, what is it called? A shave and a haircut?
Yeah, the shave and a haircut, 2 bits.
So she did that. And sure enough,
There was a knock.
there was,
It was 1 knock.
and then
I think another knock, but not like to the beat, but
right. But there were 2 knocks after. And so it was, yeah, that's where it kind of like, it got me.
like, yeah, this could be it. And not even then did I feel it as strongly. I told you. There I go, making up words again. I didn't feel it as strong. Like, I knew that these were happening, but it's very hard when it's not happening to you.
Right.
Like, to kind of believe it. Like,
Yeah.
but of course I believe it when it comes from you. Like, no doubt in my mind, like, that did not happen to you. Like, you are the one person I 100% trust and believe that that happened.
Yeah, it
And that
was-
you were freaked out because just the look on your face, I knew that that happened. But I didn't sense anything too much until after we left the infirmary.
Right.
And we went up into the gallows and the gas chamber. And we were there, mind you, in the gas chamber. And we have those pictures up of us sitting and taking pictures in the gas chamber,
Yeah.
smiling. Like,
It's
and-
something about, it's almost like the same thing that happened with the cemetery in Jibo. You know, when you're there during the day and it's a different atmosphere, you know, we were in there, of course, like you said, taking pictures and smiling and whatever. And then to be there at night and it's dark and it's just,
it's quiet.
it's a whole different vibe in there.
And just want to make it clear that spirits do not only haunt at night.
No.
They are going to be there all the time,
time.
in the day. But I just think you're more aware when you're not distracted by daytime activities.
Absolutely.
When you're quiet and concentrating. So when we had to walk up those stairs, and this should have been the most exciting point for me because we were going to be sitting in the gas chamber trying to reach out to these spirits, and we were going into the gallows to do it. And I got up there and I got that same feeling probably you had earlier. It wasn't even like a sadness, and I get
couldn't even
chills
go
thinking
in.
about it.
You
It
sat
was,
out the
I'm
whole
like
time.
actually feeling like really like chilly.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe, but I felt really heavy, like almost where I couldn't, I'm getting chills all down my leg, where I couldn't even breathe almost.
Yeah.
And I even said like, I can't go in there with
Yeah,
you guys.
you didn't even walk in. You stopped and you
I
literally,
couldn't.
that was like the last hour and a half of our time there.
Yeah.
And you just sat on the floor.
I couldn't even participate.
Yeah.
And all the other stuff, I was fine. But walking up to there, and I don't know if it was just knowing.
And we walked up there
The
earlier in the day and you were fine.
No problem.
Yeah.
I just looked at, I said, I can't go in there with you guys. I just got to sit on the floor. And I turned to the guy who was escorting us from the prison. And I just said, do you mind if I just sit next to you? I just cannot go in there with them. And they did the whole setup, and I could hear everything on the outside.
Yeah, you were right
and
there. I
everything.
could see
I was
you
right there.
from where I was.
Yeah.
We could see each other.
I just couldn't breathe. And it wasn't even like panic, anxiety, because I get panic attacks, anxiety attacks.
And it's funny because I sat in there. I sat in the gallows. I sat on the floor. I sat like the trap door. I sat, we were in the where the gas chamber is, and I didn't feel anything.
Yeah. And it's just funny what you sense and what you get. And yeah, so that was, yeah. At that point, that was the end of my night because I just kind of sat down and I was like, I'm done. I'm tired. I had this sense of dread. Like, I just am just done. And I mean, it could have been almost the feeling they had when they were walking up going, you know, basically, this is your death
This is it.
sentence.
Yeah, this is it. I'm sure
And this
that's how
is
they
the
felt.
last place you're ever going to live and see. So it is really heavy and intense. But you guys went in there.
We did. We went in there. We went into the gas chamber first, and they did. I believe they got some stuff in there, and then we went into the gallows, and I believe they got some stuff in there. You guys will have to check out their podcast because
Absolutely.
they have all the recordings of the EVPs on there, everything that they got, and they also. On that same episode, there is a cemetery across the street from the prison. and they did a little investigation there before they came to the prison, and I believe they caught some stuff there too.
Yeah, they talk about that.
Yeah.
And what they experienced.
Yeah.
So it's really, really interesting. But we had a great time
It was
at this
so much
prison.
fun, and they were
Yeah.
such cool people to hang out with, and it was so wonderful to like meet people on the road, and they were so welcoming, and for them to allow us to do that without even knowing us, like
know.
like they had
So
no
super
idea who we were.
Yes. I would love to get together with them and
Meet up
go
somewhere,
meet up
yeah.
somewhere and just do this
If
experience
they ever
again in
come
a
to
different
California, or if we make it back to, we did go through Utah, parts of Utah on our
way back.
way back, but we didn't stop. I mean, but I would love to go back for the home of crumble cookie.
Skinwalker Ranch. I was
Maybe.
like, in Utah. Yes. So no, definitely I would love to meet up with them again and just do this. It really did, even though I'm more into history and but I do love talking about the possibility
Yeah.
of, the supernatural.
Right.
And just doing this again. And I can see where people get hooked on this.
Oh, for sure.
And you need to check out their podcast because they go to cool places.
Oh yeah, they hit up some really, really cool. They've gone to Waverly.
I mean,
I want to say a few times they've been to Waverly.
Yes.
So yeah. So they've investigated some pretty cool places.
Absolutely.
So, and it's they have I don't think they have a YouTube channel. I think it's just a podcast, but they play all their EVPs. They play, they explain, the first part is like a little bit of the history, and then they go into their investigation afterwards. So it's really interesting.
Absolutely.
And they're
So
super
check 'em
cool
out.
people.
Yeah.
So
that was our time at Frontier Prison. So yeah, definitely. So thank you for joining us.
thank you for joining us.
And-
We will be back next week. I don't know what's in store for next week.
It's always a surprise.
It's always a surprise
For
but
us.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, all at 50 States of Madness. And thank you so much. We got a lot more Patreons. Thank you so much to all of our Patreons. We really appreciate it. And we're all at 50 States of Madness on all of our social media and all podcast platforms.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
We'll see you next week.
Yay.
All right.
Bye.